You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio with Andy Gryn. Andy, let's now talk about when somebody approaches you and says, Mr. Gryn, I want to get into animation voice work.
Well,
what do you tell them?
First of all, it's usually a phone call, and I don't usually enjoy them calling me Mr. But aside from that, I want to know where they're coming from. That's usually my lead on what background do they have, to what I'm going to tell them. If they're coming out that they've been doing theater workshops, theater school, going to drama classes, going to Dawson, going to Concordia, whatever, in theater, studying it, doing amateur stuff, then I know that they're into that mode. The other question I ask is particularly pertaining to cartoon voice. I ask them if they've ever been the class clown, whether they enjoy joking around, fooling around, playing with their voice, having fun. And that will give me a clue on whether they're capable of doing all sorts of many things. Because if you come in with a singular voice, and this is again something I'd mentioned before where they get celebrities to do it. One thing that turned me off was when Winona Ryder did the Russian, the Tsar Nicholas...
Anastasia?
Anastasia, that's right, thank you. I saw the previews of it. I was asked to work with Don Bluth in that studio, but when I heard them bringing in a celebrity, and Anastasia from the turn of the century sounded like a valley girl, I said, no, they're not giving it credibility. They're not giving a Russian accent to this lady. So I said, I'm not going there. I'm not dealing with that. The people who deal with dialects and different languages, learning the lilt of somebody's accent, will work very easily in a cartoon milieu. That always comes to play. So there's different little talents that I'm looking for in a person. Let's start off with kids first. The kids are usually the ones that we get a lot of calls for because I worked for a studio that would prefer using children than adults trying to be children. This is very dangerous because boys' voices changes. Girls will get a bit deeper, but we still could get away with that. So all the programs I worked on, after a year or two, the boys would disappear and we'd be replacing by younger kids, and the girls would stay on and on and on. So it's a short life for a young lad, but if they're good, they could parlay that into other acting and other programs, whether it be cartoons or live action. When their voices are changing, they're almost nowhere near any work. So the kids are a good opportunity. Anybody coming out of theater school, you need that theater background to know how to perform with your voice alone. You're not using your body or anything. You're usually locked in on the mic. Some people are very physical when they're doing it, but they still have to kind of not make any noises with their body, no slapping their body, no shifting around. They have to stay on a good axis with a microphone and practice that. And then having a lot of character sounds, a lot of different character voices, how to age your voice, how to make it younger, give it some rasp, take the rasp off, pitch it, whatever age range they could play with is what I'm looking for. And to get into it, that's the hardest part because we're dealing with an actor union. Actors are a big union for voice work and theater, not theater, but in movies and whatnot, TV. So breaking into that is the hard part because technically I would have to audition several people who are actor members before I could hire even a non-actor union who would be better than them if they were. So they have to, there's a tough competition just to get into the union in order to work. So you just can't walk off the streets and say, I want to do it. You have to really put your talent against it. So you have to really come in prepared with a lot of characters, a lot of voices. One voice, you're a one-trick pony, might sound nice, but everybody say, oh, that's so-and-so, and I recognize that voice from somewhere else. So that's what you got to stay away from.
What is the craziest thing that somebody has ever done to try to get your attention so that they would get the job that you were offering?
Well, all right. Now, oh, no, you really made me smile because I won't mention the name, but he's working as a stand-up comedian, and he had everybody rolling in the aisles in the studio. He came in to audition for a chef, and he walks into the studio with a suitcase. Now, mind you, we're looking only for sound. We're not visuals. But he puts on a chef hat and a little fake Italian mustache and an apron, and he starts doing his best Italian chef, but he's in costume. And I've never seen anybody do that before, coming in and dressing the part for a voice job. Because it's like Charlie McCarthy on the radio way back with Edgar Bergen. Edgar Bergen's lips always moved, but everybody thought he was one of the world's best ventriloquists because they heard him on radio. They never saw him on TV way back when.
Did this particular stand-up comedian get the job?
No, unfortunately not. No, it's he's a stand-up comedian, not a character cartoon voice actor.
Another question for you. What are some of the sacrifices and obstacles in living the lifestyle you do in animation and the live action production?
I got two major things that you kind of have to think about. I was raising a family early in my career. My wife is a teacher still, and I stayed home the first year my first son was born. So I took myself out of the market, and it was one of these things. We're sacrificing a salary for a year because we wanted one of us as parents to be home with a child. So there was a decision at that point in my career of saying, let's put it on hold for a while. My wife had to and wanted to teach this group of kids that she saw for the last 5-6 years finish their high school career. And I had no objections with that, but you got to figure you're taking a hit monetarily. And the other moral decision I went through, and this was a hard one, is working on stuff you don't believe in or you don't feel you belong in. And come winter time, it used to be softcore porn films were popular. And here again, it was about my son at that time was about 3 years old. And up comes this job, and I'm humming and hawing whether I should take it or not. And my dear mother comes along and says, you got a mortgage to pay? I say, yep. You got shoes to put on your kids? Yep, got to do that. You got to feed everybody? Yep. You could take that job. You don't have to look at the product. So I took it, didn't look at the product. But it was still an interesting prospect of working on stuff like that.
We've heard what you've done in your past. We've heard what you were doing very recently. What are you doing right now, and what aspirations do you have for the future?
Well, right now, this very minute, what am I working? I've got a lot of pokers in the fire. I've got a lot of little jobs. I almost feel like what happened to Russia after Glasnost. They had what the Americans used to call one big dragon out there, and now they got a lot of little snakes. So that's what I feel like I'm dealing with. Instead of working for one big corporation, I'm tying up with a lot of little projects, a lot of little jobs. I'm shooting a little educational video, or used in an educational course, video for a professor at Concordia. I have what I like to think of my book project on the Mile End. I'm working Friday nights at the St. Vader Bagel Shop on St. Vader Street. And I'm enjoying that immensely because it's putting me into the heart of the community, and I'm making a lot of contacts there. And what else have I got going? There's a few other things.
What can you tell me about the animation workshops that you're looking to offer?
Yes, that's something. As we're leaving to come here tonight, that's what my wife yelled out at me, that I should tell people and let them know that I'm planning on starting, with my background, some animation cartoon voice workshops, which should be in the fall. I'll be starting them, I would imagine, working in a studio with people with scripts to give them the real feel of what it's like to be in a recording studio, and to develop character voices and kind of let my last 14 years of expertise come to play in a teaching mode with people in workshops. So that's what I'm aiming for as well.
Andy, it's been absolutely wonderful having you in studio with us. I'm very sorry, but the time is up and we have to get it going.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Then you need to buy him the book Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.